This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Avast me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I be your captain, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is me first mate and skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz. Welcome back to Full Stream Ahead, the Capes and Lunatics show where we review stuff that you can watch streaming on the TV. Tonight's episode, Agent Carter, Season 1, Episode 7, SNAFU. Peggy is cornered and more vulnerable than ever as Leviathan makes their move against her. As the SSR zeroes in on Howard Stark, they may pay the ultimate price as they find their true enemy is closer than they realized. Our director this week is Vincent Miziano. Writing credits go to Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, of course, for the based on the Marvel Comics by. Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely get those creative buys. And Chris Dingus is got that written by credit. Oh, Chris Dingus, how we love you. He's a very talented writer. And I will say he is a talented writer. This was a very exciting episode.
Indeed.
With a lot of spycraft. And a lot of essentially dealing with what we have to deal with. And I think we did get a little ahead of, or I got a little ahead of ourselves last episode, but this is the episode where basically Peggy decides to come clean with Dooley and makes because essentially her and Jarvis are in interrogation room A, or actually they're in the conference room, not the interrogation room, and they had this clear view of so let's just drop back because we actually get our little Marvel Easter egg. When we see Dr.
Ivchenko.
Dr. Ivchenko, thank you. Dr. Ivchenko, basically at a field hospital during World War II, and they've run out of anesthetic, and they ask Dr. Ivchenko to hypnotize a patient so he will not feel the pain. And at the time, he's reading a book, and the book is, The Tragedy of Dr. Faustus. And the character he's based on is a classic Captain America villain called Dr. Faustus, who has the superhuman hypnotism power to basically make anyone who hears his voice fall under his hypnotic thrall.
Like Kilgrave.
Yeah, except that it's not chemically induced. It's just hypnotism.
Suggestion, yeah.
Suggestion, yes. Which, oh man, that would have been cool to have Faustus meet the Purple Man.
Ooh.
Because you create the situation where it's like, if you hypnotize the Purple Man and he doesn't use his power against you, but now the Purple Man has to do your will. So, that's a Marvel team up, or Marvel villains team up waiting to happen. But
it's ill-fated because it wouldn't last very long before somebody gets suspicious and tries to mind control the other.
Yes, but that's how it works. But in this case, and actually this is an interesting thing because, and this is one of these items where you have to the Easter eggs have to be taken in context with other things we're seeing at the time. So at about this time, they introduce in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series proper the mind control techniques used by Hydra, which is called the Faustus method.
Oh.
Yes, and it is very much this idea of focusing, getting someone to focus and to comply, and a lot of really cool brainwash stuff that they do there, and that's our little Easter egg at the start of this. I
also found it interesting that when they first approached him, they're like, "We've heard you can make a man feel no pain." Now, what kind of notoriety did he have, and for what? Mm-hmm. Like, was he sending soldiers in without the ability to feel pain? Is that what soldiers went to him for? Because it seemed like he was not, bad intentioned at that spot. He seemed like he was just being a good person trying to help out. I thought we'd get a little bit more of what turned him, or, what tragedy was the corner that he turned on that made him a bad guy.
Well, it goes back to that story we saw an episode ago, when he talks about his indoctrination into Leviathan. Oh. And it's entirely possible. It's entirely possible that was a true story. But then once he's in Leviathan,
right.
Suddenly he's making his own sandwiches, and it becomes this opportunity for him to explore other things and to rise in the power of Leviathan. Especially in the idea that we are going to come to see how there may be some personal vendetta with the Battle of, the Battle of Fenkau, I believe it was? Yeah, that we're trying to understand what happened. Which I think we're going to get more of next episode. In fact, I know we're going to get more of that next episode. In this case, what we're dealing with here is Peggy in the conference room sees Faustus signaling someone in the other room, in the other location, and that's what prompts her to come out and essentially confess, which I think is a bold move. Well, actually, let me, because before we get to this part, there is actually an entire scene where she's been captured, she's being interrogated, and we get this drawn-out scene where basically all of the, our three males, Thompson, Dooley, and Sousa, are each doing their methods on interrogation. Thompson's like, what I can do in here. Do you want me to do that to you? And Peggy is essentially dealing with it.
Yeah, but I love how she deals with that question in particular. She's like, you know what I'm capable of, so bring it, man. If you think you got what it takes.
Fair enough. Yeah, so this is Peggy in the interrogation room.
And by the end of it, I love how the scene ends with sort of her being accusatory towards each three of them, and how, they're just children in her presence. I thought that was kind of
cool. Because of course they're all mad about something. They are being petulant, and that's sort of what she's dealing with here. Is these are petulant men who, she has been running circles around. Which, granted, as I always say, in a just world, she would not have had to. Right. In a just world, she could have come to Dooley with her hunch and maybe gotten the chance to run it down, She could have actually felt comfortable coming to Dooley and saying, Stark approached me, and this is, I don't know where he is, and I don't know how to find him, but he reached out to me, and here's what he said, so maybe let's run this down. Let's see if there's some truth in this while we're looking for Tony Stark, And
yeah, but she makes an interesting point later on. She's like, when she's talking about Steve Rogers' blood, she's like, I didn't trust, our biggest capitalist with it, but I didn't want to bring it here either. To say that I don't trust you guys, or I don't think you guys are smart enough. I was
because the truth, and this was the point, is that they did waste the other 7 samples of Steve Rogers' blood. But that at the same time, Tony Stark has had this sample since 1941, arguably. And, maybe he had more and this was just his last one, but he hasn't done anything with it either, So I got to imagine this stuff has a shelf life. I know they're
it is super blood.
Well, yeah, and they are freezing it, and as we saw, Cap is interestingly impervious to freezing. Although what's weird is actually there's actually a blinking you miss it kind of scientific explanation for how Steve Rogers was frozen for 40 years in Winter Soldier in the museum. I found this out that if you freeze on it and look at the text, which actually I don't think you could do in a video, but the people who actually wrote the text say that what it states is that essentially Steve Rogers' blood, that it's not the super soldier serum that kept him alive, it's that his body produced excess sugars in the way that certain fish do, so that their blood never froze, so that he could, so that when he's in suspended animation, he could freeze, but his cells didn't burst. So it's just an interesting thing, because that's how you do proper, not proper cryogenics, because there's no proper cryogenics, but theoretically what you need to do is you need to get the body to a frozen state without the liquid in the cells and the blood crystallizing.
Is it to facilitate movement, or simply so that the cells don't burst open, like you said?
So they don't burst open, yeah. Because that's
the movement doesn't matter. So the heart isn't pumping; it's not carrying anything.
No, nothing is active. It's just that nothing explodes. So that once you get that person out of the water or out of the frozen state, once they thaw out, if you have a super soldier serum in you and it starts your heart again, because that's what super soldier serums do, that's what keeps you alive. It's not that, the super soldier serum is just so tough, his cells just healed. It's no, actually, there's a chemical process that his body went into, which also kind of suggests maybe some kind of evolutionary step where suddenly his body can take on a trait that it technically shouldn't have, although there are theories that diabetes is actually the reason why humans have diabetes is because that heightened blood sugar level would help you survive in frigid climates.
Oh, how fascinating. So something that was a weakness in him from before the serum ended up being a lucky thing that saved his life in the ice.
Well, I don't know if he had diabetes
I don't know if necessarily, but they're implying something. So maybe it was either, like you're suggesting, maybe that he was sort of a mutant to begin with, and then got enhanced, or it's just kind of like one of those O. Henry stories where, the weakness in the beginning ended up being his saving grace.
That would be a very interesting way to look at it, and I like that idea better, that he actually had some diabetic genetics in him as well, among all of his other hodgepodge of flat feet and scrawniness and asthma, that he also was a little bit hyperglycemic, and and then as soon as he gets better, but then that one thing that what actually saved him was the fact that he still had these underlying genetic markers that kicked into overdrive, as it were, and kept him alive in that moment. But
I like that idea. That's pretty.
That
cool.
is actually a pretty cool idea, Mozz. I like it. Mozz.
Right on.
Trademark that. That needs a copyright on it. Okay, but getting back to where we were. So she basically, withstands the entire interrogation, and then Jarvis comes in because Jarvis has the confession of Howard Stark. The unsigned confession of Howard Stark, it should be noted. Because, as we're come to find out later, Howard Stark does not know that he just confessed. Yes, so this was Jarvis's attempt to save Peggy.
And it would have worked, too, if he was just wearing a fancy ring.
A fancy ring? Oh, yes, the fancy ring, yes.
As it stands, he couldn't outsmart Notwit Dooley. It was like, wait a second, why am I going to let the both of you walk for a piece of paper? A signed piece of... No, it's not signed yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, man.
Thing. And it's like, well, as soon as Stark gets into Teterboro, as soon as he gets here, he will be here, and we will be gone already. But that's okay. He promised. Cross his heart and hope to die. Stick a needle in his eye. Yes. Ow, indeed, Tristan. But yeah, so they're kind of stuck there. But because they're stuck there, and because they're not being interrogated anymore, they get moved to the conference room, which gives them the vision to see what's going on. And that prompts Peggy to really say, okay, look, no more kidding around, no more jokes. Here is what is going on. And lays it all out, what Stark did, that, she still says Stark didn't do it, but she also says, look, I did not try, and, you need something to show, and she shows them Cap's blood. Meanwhile, at that same time, Faustus is, he continues to manipulate people. No, that's right, Dooley. He manipulates Dooley.
He has him call, was it his wife or...
Oh, what is
to
he
apologize?
doing? Yes.
He calls him, gets him to reconcile with somebody. And he is genuinely helping him for a moment, but that's how he earns his trust.
Sort of, because we see that this is all part of the larger, elaborate method that he uses to bring this person into control. He puts them in a situation that they feel safe, and then allows them to, because they're safe, he says, now to keep that feeling, do what I say. So Peggy goes into that, makes her confession. She and Edwin, and at that point, he's not quite buying it yet, if I recall correctly, because Faustus still has to manipulate Dooley to get the item.
Right.
Which is essentially what happens, because they do find out that the agent that was watching Faustus last walked in front of traffic, which was it's hard for everybody, but we see that this is a running gag. You can see that Faustus has no love for these S.H.I.E.L.D. guys.
Yeah.
In fact, really in its own disturbing way, it's almost like he is visiting upon them some kind of retribution. Like, yes, you think you're a good person because you have a wife and kids. I had a wife and kids too, maybe. And lots of people had wives and kids until Howard Stark, attacked us, which is what his view is on this, because we do see that they're going to get one of the items, one of the things that Howard has hidden away. Now, we assume in this that it would have been the blood of Steve Rogers, but it's not.
No.
Yeah, and I think
was it the thing they used at the end, the gas canister thing? That wasn't the actual. That was the thing.
Yes, because along these lines, there's this little bit of chaos in this because okay, now I'm remembering what happened. So essentially, she makes her statement. Sousa and Thompson go to investigate the 10th floor of the building across the way. And after they leave is when Dooley goes to talk to Faustus, Dooley puts Faustus back under. Faustus puts Dooley back under. Yeah. Would have been different the other way around. And in that he has Dooley lock, basically has, he walks,
Jarvis and Peggy
into the interrogation room, handcuff them to the table, and then breaks off the key in the door so they can't get out. And meanwhile, over in the other building, Sousa and Thompson realize that there is a person up here. There is a person up on the upper floor. And
I love that moment in the elevator where he's like, "You believe her?" And Susan's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, me too."
Yeah, well,
But
at the end of the day,
he is a guy who was doing his job like he was told to, though, which is admirable.
Well, yeah, and at the end of the day, what one can say about it is they don't really have a reason to doubt her once she gives the story. Yeah. And it's probably a little annoying that, in its own way, they probably feel a lot like she felt when Howard Stark lied to her. That, it's like, what, you couldn't trust us with this? And, of course, arguably, no. Although maybe she could. She probably could have trusted Sousa.
That point, well, yeah, but, like, are they, deft enough or smart enough to see the threats coming to be able to handle something of this kind of importance and power? And clearly that point is, made by the end of this episode that no, they're not capable of defending against the kinds of threats they're facing. They have no idea what Leviathan is capable of. Maybe higher up in S.H.I.E.L.D. does, but this office definitely is not equipped to handle the kind of things that are flying their way. Yes. It's like, a local PD handling X-Files. It's not going to work.
Well, and that is what we see happen here.
You can't really blame Peggy. At all.
Yes. No, honestly. I'm trying to remember, they, as everything is happening, Peggy and Jarvis realized they could smash the table through the mirrored window.
The see-through, the double-sided mirror.
Yeah. But how did they get out from the cuffs? Because that was like an aspect of that.
Because Thompson shows up there. And by this time, he's already come around to the fact that Peggy's probably not a double crosser or a traitor, and this is a great moment where they smash through the window. They're like, yeah, and they both realize we're still tied to the table, and that's when Thompson comes in and says, "Hey," and she says, "Where's Dooley?" And they go find him, off in La La Land in his office, strapped to a bomb.
Yeah, and the bomb is a very heavy issue here because that is. First off, you almost feel excited when they say it's a new prototype armor, and like, yay, Iron Man, and like, oh, Iron Man.
But I'm glad that it wasn't, because you want the genesis of that to be the story that was told to us, and you don't want to mess with that. So it's glad that it was far enough and distant enough from that design to not take away from the genius of that moment.
Yeah, and I'm definitely inclined to agree with that. But it is this thing because it's like, if you first off, who designs locks that? Oh, and if you remove it almost sounds like this was designed to explode.
Right, like
nothing about this sounds like anything that makes sense. That when you lock on the armor, it starts the heating element. But if you unlock it, it actually accelerates the heating process till it explodes. Which almost makes you wonder, well, couldn't they have just unlocked it, then took it off, quickly unlocked it, took it off, and throw it out the window?
and that speaks to the fact that it didn't look at all like a piece of armor. That's not what it looked like its purpose was. So that's a very interesting point. Maybe it was designed as an enhanced interrogation tool, like, Suicide Squad. Amanda Waller has these things in their necks. Hey, if you disobey me, this is going to blow up and your head's going to pop off, so better do what you're told. That's what it seems like it was designed to do.
Yeah. Well, and again, but even then, it's like the minute you put on the vest and lock it, that's what causes it to start heating. So it's like you have to put on the vest and you wouldn't really get the chance to ever take it off is the idea. It's like it seems... It just seems really poorly designed.
Unless if you think the purpose is to protect you, unless the purpose is to coerce you into talking, unless I'm going to blow this vest up, then it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, except there's no way to get out of the vest. That's the problem.
No, well, yeah, maybe
it works. It works to say this is going to explode in 10 minutes if you don't tell me what I want to hear. Okay, you can make that argument, but then And if I tell you what you want to hear, you're going to unlock the vest. I said, no, if we unlock the vest, it's actually just going to make you explode faster. It's basically just a device that makes you explode.
Yeah, there's really no sense to it, I guess.
It was really a dumb design and a dumb idea. But then again, arguably, that's why Howard had it locked away.
Right, and I think the portion of the story that makes the most sense is that maybe it was designed as just a warming jacket for troops fighting in the cold and in the snow, and then it didn't really work, and so that's what it was. And it wasn't, anything beyond just a warming, like a Uniqlo jacket or something.
Well, I guess it's entirely possible that it did have armor qualities to it, like heavy. I mean, it looks a little like a bulletproof vest.
I guess it had pockets for like ceramic plates or something.
Yeah, you could have had something in there that would have protected you, or I actually always thought that would be like if it had like some kind of electromagnetic field that would like repel bullets.
Interesting.
Yeah. The other problem with like the electromagnetic field is like how do you hold a gun when you're covered in an electromagnetic field to repel bullets?
Unless you have, a ceramic gun.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. Howard Stark, always on the case. Although then, you have ceramic bullets, and then those aren't affected by the magnetic field, and you're right back to square one.
Oh,
so
fair enough.
Fair enough. But Dooley, and this is the whole idea, is that Faustus puts Dooley in this situation because while Dooley is in this situation, he and Dottie Underwood get to escape. And in their escape, they do understand. Well, because they have the thing that they came to steal, Lot 17, and Lot 17. They make the point. Does this do what we need? And he says, well, it's very old. We don't know if it still works. So let's go and test it. Yes.
So now, are they implying that this was technology that might have been, because that's immediately the connection I made was, the Nazi chambers. And that's like a really dark direction for them to go. I was surprised that was the weapon that was Lot 17. And if it was, my God, is Tony Stark working on some dark things? And who did he have connections with? And why is Leviathan? I mean, it just brings up so many just ugly questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what is weird in it is that obviously they have these, and I'm sorry here, I'm just trying to organize my thoughts. They utilize this in a theater. And we see that in that theater, essentially, it drives everyone mad. This is essentially a mad bomb. The gas, it's basically a super amphetamine, but that's also it's basically bath salts. The idea that suddenly people are eating faces and biting people and attacking them, and that is a weird thing, I think. I just think it's an odd. It's obviously a useful weapon, but it's also this thing where the product that they've created does not seem to be a useful weapon to create. It's sort of like that self-heating armor. The idea that he designed this, he created this, but really, obviously, almost immediately, it doesn't work. For whatever it's meant to be. And I realized, okay, so we don't find out what he was trying to do until next week. But here so arguably, hey, it works just fine. He created it, works just fine. Maybe should have destroyed it, Yeah. Like, why keep this? You know what it is. You know the chemical formula. And that's sort of the thing with all of this is, like, I kind of feel like, if it would just been notes that got stolen, that makes a lot more sense. Like Da Vinci's books,
Yeah.
Someone stole all of, but, they wanted to have props. So, So we do get the prop, and they do have it, and they let it go in the theater, and that has the desired effect where everyone in the theater kills each other, which is a nice bookend, because when Dooley realizes there's no way to save his life, when the eggheads have no idea how to handle it, he, does a Hudsucker and runs and jumps out the window and blows up mid-sky, raining whatever atomic material were in that vest down on the people of New York below. Which is, its own tragic.
He saved everybody's life.
Yeah, arguably,
and finally, in that moment, he's like, "Hey, you, Peggy, make sure you get him." Oh, now I'm, where you go to for this kind of stuff.
Well, hey, it's his deathbed confession, Got to have that deathbed repentance to get into heaven. And he's come to realize that, he benched his best agent. And he should have not done that. He should have been stronger of will, but he wasn't. But now he's willing to make the ultimate sacrifice to save others. He is the guy who understands the trick to the trolley problem is to throw yourself onto the tracks. That's how you solve the trolley problem. Okay. Any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozz?
No. I really, really thought this was a really fun one.
Yeah, I did too. I really liked pretty much everything they do in it. I mean, I like the way that they create the threat of Faustus in this, and really, as if we didn't know he was a threat from last episode when he made the man walk into traffic. We are granted this interesting look into it, and I do like how it all plays out. I mean, I like pretty much everything about this, and it ends so horrifically. Yeah. And I think there's no other way to talk about it. It ends horrifically when you get to the end of this episode, when you see what was unleashed by Faustus so casually. There is no doubt he is the villain of the piece. He and Dottie. But, it's a powerful ending for that level of violence that we're going to be seeing here. So,
and the other thing, I really like Dottie's character a lot. Like when she notices the shadow of Sousa holding the gun in the hallway, she gets really excited. She's like, "Oh, this is going to be fun," and prances almost up into position to let him think he has the advantage. And then again, when the agent encounters her in the hallway, she gets up a little tentative at first, and then gives him a smile, and then sees the smile is working, and then she goes, "I have him." Oh, it's such a great moment.
Yeah. I mean, Dottie Underwood is just an amazing character. A character every person who's ever watched this wants more of. And I cannot remember for the life of me if we see her next season or not. But we'll have to find out when we're watching these episodes if we go to the next season of Agent Carter. Because this is the penultimate episode, Mozz.
Indeed. Take a drink.
Yes, take a drink. And I really think it sets us up in a great way to end this first season next week. But in the meantime, if you are listening to this episode and you're wondering, why I sound, drunken and rambling, I'm going to say it's probably because you're not listening to us on Tweaked Audio headsets, which you can find out about at Tweaked Audio. That's TWEAKED audio.com. It sounds better. That's their tagline. So I highly recommend you go over to tweakedaudio.com. Look at the wide array of headsets, earbuds. They even have stuff with like the little plugs that go into the phone like your grandpa used to use, as well as the latest Bluetooth technology for your listening pleasure. And I highly recommend you do that. And if you're also interested in stimulating your mind as well as your ears, there is a private investigator by the name of Michelle Gray, and she needs your help to solve a cold case, sort through the evidence, decode ciphers, place together clues, and solve the crime. It's like an escape room delivered to your door every month. I'm, of course, talking about Hunt a Killer, longtime sponsor of the show and all of Southgate Media. And if you go to huntakiller.com, you can find out more about Michelle Gray, the case that is boggling her mind. As great of a detective as she is, she cannot solve it without your help. So please go to huntakiller.com and help Michelle Gray solve the problem. And if none of that interests you, you know what? You probably like other things. And if you like other things, there's one place you can always go to find the thing you want, and that's Amazon.com. And if you want to go to Amazon.com, go down to our show notes, find that little clicky thing device, linky-doo, to Amazon.com. That's going to take you right to their website. And because you listened to us first and clicked through us, it costs you nothing, gives us a little bit of a repayment from Amazon because they look at your cookies and say, oh, hey, those guys listen to Chaz and Mozz. They're cool. Let's give Chaz and Mozz money. So if you do that, please do over at Amazon.com. And while you're at Amazon.com, look up Pod Life the book. I don't know if you like podcasting, but you're listening to one now. And if you like podcasting, you may want to find out what makes podcasters tick. And there is no better book than Pod Life the book to get you through the morass that is the minds of a podcaster. Whether you want to podcast, have thought about podcasting, or just wonder why anyone would podcast, Pod Life the book is the book for you. It is available in Kindle download or in paperback, which you can order on through Amazon.com. I highly recommend you get those hard copies because those are going to be worth something someday. Anyway, I think that's all of our plugs. So, Mozz, if
I really thought when you were saying, why I sound so drunk and slurry is because you're not drinking with us. That's where I thought that was going. And then I got into a read. I was like, oh, cool.
Yes, well, it is the penultimate episode. Take a drink.
Yay.
They should be taking a drink. But Mozz, if you would like to, or if people would like to talk to you about the shameless plugging I just did, or the show we previously reviewed, how can they find you?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way the way our Mozz and Poz once did at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. As we're recording this Wednesday night at 10 p.m., I will be doing that because it just keeps getting better. If you want to know why I think it just keeps getting better, go up to that Nuff Said feed. Listen to the show me and Mozz are just about to review of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on Nuff Said, because it is a great show. I live tweet it, and you can follow me live tweeting it at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsscr. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing!
Thank you, Mozz. And thank you, Tristan. He's off in the background doing my taglines. All right, you lousy landlubbers. You have weathered the storm and gotten through with us. One more episode of The Fair Agent Carter. Tune in next week as we wrap up Season 1 and then continue on full stream ahead. Arr. Yarr.